Hey now, Brawlers, it's time for another Board Game Brawl review with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com.
Hey now, today we're going to take a look at Too Many Cinderellas from Brawl Games. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I did a paid preview for Too Many Cinderellas, I don't know, 5-6 months ago. It was like the end of last year. But that has absolutely no bearing on what is now going to be my final review and my final opinion. I just wanted to divulge that. And actually, just to clarify, the version of the game that I used for my paid preview was actually not a prototype. It was actually the original Japanese edition of this game, which was complete and had the final rules, and not much has changed in this edition of the game other than the artwork was a bit cleaned up and the tokens are better, but I'll get to that in my final thoughts. But I just wanted to let you know that I did a preview for this at one point. Doesn't have anything to do with the review part of it. So, what is this game? This is a light micro game, as many originally Japanese games are nowadays, where it takes place in the world of Cinderella, the mythos of Cinderella. That makes it sound way more important than it is, the mythos. But the prince is running around the city after the ball the previous night, trying to find who the glass slipper fits on. That person is his Cinderella. Now, the twist on this fairy tale is that each of the players represents a family who notices this and says, okay, it would be really great if my family member or friend was chosen as Cinderella, even though they're probably not actually Cinderella from last night. But he doesn't know that. So what you're trying to do is spread rumors to make the prince think that your candidate for Cinderella is the real one. And this is all playing out in sort of a reverse deduction, planting evidence type of game. Let's go ahead and take a brief look at how the game is played, then we're going to come back and I'll give you my final opinion.
Alright, this is the setup for a 3-player game of Too Many Cinderellas. The goal here is to get your candidate chosen to be Cinderella by the prince. Each player is going to get 4 cards from the deck at the beginning of the game. There's only 18 cards total in the entire game. All the rest of the cards are going to go in the center of the table as a draw deck. And each player is going to get 2 tokens in their color. Each token, one token says yes, one token says no. There's actually an extra white token that just says no on it that you put off to the side of the deck. That will come into play with one of the other cards. Now let me show you what these cards look like and give you a little breakdown here. First off, up in the top corner is the rank of the card. The lower the number, the higher the rank. This is going to be kind of a tiebreaker at the end of the game. If more than one player still has a potential viable candidate for Cinderella, then whoever has the lower number and therefore higher rank is going to be the winner, with one exception, which I'll get to. Now, over here to the side, well, let me say this first. Everything above this bottom part of the card is only applicable if this card, is a viable candidate or is a potential candidate to be Cinderella. And that is so long as this card is in your hand. As long as this card is in your hand, then anything above this line is the important part. And what it is you got the picture, the rank, the age, which is going to be either teen or older, and then that facts about that character. So this character has blonde hair, likes rice, likes ice cream, likes cake. Now, that's while it's in your hand. If you choose to play it down to the table as a rumor, that's where the bottom part comes in. These are rumors that you're trying to spread about the candidates for Cinderella. So in this case, it's Cinderella does not like books. If you play this down to the table and it goes through, then that becomes the new rule that Cinderella doesn't like books. And I'll explain that more in a moment. Here's another one. Cinderella is not young. And you see it's got different stats over here, different rank. Here's a very interesting candidate for Cinderella. Cinderella does not have black hair. And then you see male. Then you have, this was the one that lets you put the no token out, which lets you slap the no token down onto one of the other rumors that has already been in play. I'll get back to that. This one lets you subtract the no token from a card. This one, another interesting candidate for Cinderella. This one actually reverses the ranking. This is what I was alluding to earlier. The card ranking is reversed so that 18 is the best rank and 1 is the worst rank. So what does this all mean with the no tokens and putting things out? Well, how this is going to work is that you're going to go around the table twice. So pick a starting player, and starting from there, each player must play a total of 2 rumors down to the table. You'll go around once, each player will do it once, then start again, and each player will play it again, so that at the end of it all, you'll have 2 cards left in hand. When you play a card down as a rumor, you'll put it face up so that every player can see it, and then every player is going to take their voting tokens in hand, secretly choose one, and then reveal them simultaneously. Now, if every single token is a yes, then that card is going to become viable. It is now a new fact about, for all intents and purposes, about Cinderella, which is Cinderella does not like cake. And the only thing that can change that at this point is if someone plays the card and that goes through, that lets you put the extra no token onto that card. But if anyone votes no, and remember this is simultaneous, then every no token that gets voted gets put onto this card. And it's very important that every no token be put on the card for a couple of reasons. Number one, your yes token goes back to you after you use it, but your no token is used up forever. In other words, it's one-time use. It's also important because of the card that lets you remove no tokens that I mentioned before. Therefore, if there was only one no token on this card and I removed it, now it's a viable thing again. Now it's a fact. But if there was more than one, then it's still screwed, and no one's going to be able to keep that from becoming, keep that from becoming a non-viable rumor. You know what I mean? So, like I said, you're going to keep going around and doing this. So for a 3-player game, there should be a total of 6 cards in play because you go around the table twice, some of them which may be in play, some of them which may not be in play. Then, once you've done this, everyone should have 2 cards left in hand that are hopefully still viable as candidates. So, for instance, Cinderella is not a senior, Cinderella is not female, Cinderella is not like Rice, the ranking is now reversed, which only matters for ties at the end. At this point, there's one last thing you have to do, which is a secret draw from the top of the deck. That is another condition, and if anyone still has their no token left at this point, they could even veto this one as well, which is Cinderella does not like ice cream. Now, everyone is going to look at the cards that are left in their hand. If anyone still has a viable candidate, meaning that if you look at all their stats, they still make it through the grueling process of all the different cards out there that are eliminating these variables, they declare that they do, and then everyone declares what the highest rank of the viable candidates are, which could be flipped, by the way, because of the cat card. And whoever has a viable candidate with the highest rank, one way or the other, is going to be the winner of the game. Now, if you choose to, the game does come with jewels that you can use to keep track of your score, and you can play the game in multiple rounds, and the first person to get to, I believe, 2 points or 3 points is going to be the total winner, or you can just play it in one sitting, and that's that. So that is Too Many Cinderellas. Let's get to my final thoughts.
Thematically, I think that Too Many Cinderella works. It's a very light game, and when you have so few components and so few rules and things going on, it can be tough for a theme to really be dragged out. But it's there. You know, you're secretly trying to put forth your candidate, and I think it works pretty well. I like the artwork on the game. It's sort of that. I'm glad that they kept it, by the way. It's sort of that quirky, minimalist Japanese style. That just works very, very well. It's just the one thing that they changed though was they cleaned up the graphic design a bit as far as the borders of the card and how the the fact symbols on the side of the card that tells you what the traits of that person, that's in a much more prominent and cleaner place, and I think that's for the better, as well as the rumor written on the bottom of the card. So they made some good adjustments there. The tokens are now these wooden tokens, which are much nicer. They're going to hold up a lot better, and they use the same generic gems that I've seen in so many millions of other games, but not a big deal. My one complaint about the presentation of the game is actually the box that it comes in. Actually, the box is fine. It's the artwork on the front. It's really, really bad. And I wish that they had just... Now, granted, the original Japanese artwork was not good either. It was just like a generic profile of a castle, if I'm remembering correctly. But even that would have been better than this. Because I think that if I saw this on a shelf, I would immediately pass it by based on the artwork. Which is a shame, by the way, because the game is actually pretty good. It's super light. You have to go into this with the right expectations. This is not like a heavily strategic game, but there's enough strategy there and enough, trying to bluff out your opponents in a weird way that makes it very interesting. And because it's so light and because it's so easy to learn, it's very accessible to a wide variety of people. The thing is, and like I mentioned in my intro a little bit, you're kind of trying to plant evidence. That's a weird kind of way to look at it, but that's kind of how it is. Or eliminate variables, or keep other people from eliminating variables to keep the cards in your hand viable. This is a hand management game, and kind of its rawest form, because you're either going to play your card and I like games where you can use a card as multiple things, and this is a very simple version of that sort of mechanism. You're either playing it as a rumor or you're keeping it as a candidate. And once you've played it down as a rumor, it's there, it's done. And how you do that, and whether or not you're even going to let your own card that you've played go through as a rumor by judicious use of your one no token, that's a really interesting part of the game. This is all about scarcity of resources, only having the 4 cards in your hand, only having that one no token. That's kind of true microgame fashion in a sense. The game doesn't outstay its welcome. I think that even with the maximum player count of 4, 4, it's still very quick. You're still looking at less than a half hour, which is good. You don't want it to go on too long, especially when you really know the game. It's going to go really, really quickly. And you can play the game going in rounds where when someone wins, you get a gem, and then you play until I think someone gets 2 or 3 gems. You don't really need to do that. I think the game is complete just by playing it one time around, much like a game of Love Letter. But yeah, I enjoy figuring out which cards you want to hold on to, which cards you want to get rid of. I like the artwork on the cards. I like the cards that do different things, that reverse the ranking, which can be very, very important, because it's very possible in a game for everyone to have a viable candidate depending on how things are laid out and which cards are in people's hands. And then it really comes down to a ranking, and that's very important. And that adds just a little extra bit of strategy as to what you're going to keep in your hand as well, which I do like. And there are cards that let you add or remove the no tokens. That's also interesting, that extra no token you keep off to the side. It is very random. And there's a chance that you're just going to get screwed, that there's just nothing you can do because you ended up with the right allotment of cards in your hand that everyone is vetoing the traits of. You get like a few cards that have very similar traits. Someone kills like 3 of them with 1 vote that goes through if you've already used your no token. Or that random card that comes out of the deck at the end that you just couldn't save your no token for, and boom. You just got sunk with that. But because it's so short and because it's so light and it's not to be taken too seriously, I don't think that's a huge issue. So I like it. It's a very charming game. I think it's going to do well with a lot of different groups that like these lighter games. Definitely a gateway style filler game. That is Too Many Cinderellas from Grail Games.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.